Then there's also affordable housing issues. So people live paycheck to paycheck to paycheck. One crisis, one missed paycheck can send somebody into homelessness. So if you have to choose between going to the ER or paying your rent, fixing your car to go to work or paying your rent, you can be evicted tomorrow.
Welcome back to In Focus Kentucky, where each week we look at one different issue impacting Kentuckians, and today we're focusing on the crucial issue of homelessness. And joining me now is Louisville Metro Councilman Bill Hollander and Natalie Harris of the Louisville's Coalition for the Homeless. Both have come together to file an ordinance that will give the homeless citizens of Louisville notice before a homeless camp is cleared. Now, thanks for joining us here in the studio.
Thank you.
We'll start with you, Natalie. Talk to us a little about this ordinance and kind of how that idea came together.
Well, we already have a great partnership in Louisville between the homeless agencies and the city, especially the police department, in dealing with homeless camps and when those need to be cleared out in our community. But what we've realized is where they normally will contact us and let us know ahead of time, and we kind of have a partnership with them where outreach people go out. From time to time, somebody doesn't know that that's the process, and so it gets circumvented. And so we really felt like after a particular incident that happened in town, that if we put that in writing, everyone would know what the process was. It would always be followed the same way. There wouldn't be a question of that the Coalition of the Homeless had to still exist for this to happen. It just would be something that would happen. It didn't matter what department.
Now, did you reach out to the councilman to kind of get the conversation started, or what was that process?
Yes, and I thought that I'd have to convince him, but he was already ready to go. So I think a lot of people who'd been following the news and had seen this one situation where there was less than 24 hours notice and people were removed from a camp all kind of felt like there needed to be some action, and so I assume the councilman also felt that way and knew that there could be a way that we could solve this problem.
And Councilman Hollander, talk to us about the steps that you took to kind of get the ball rolling for this.
Well, let me say I think it was heartbreaking to everybody who saw people who had all of their belongings really disappear without notice. We heard stories about people's family pictures, about their ID cards, which are essential to survive. We heard a story about someone's mother's ashes disappearing in this process. It's heartbreaking. So I think there was a good deal of support for let's say that we're not going to do this again. Let's put this into a policy. The administration has now supported this ordinance. And so I think it provides some notice. And it also allows during that 21-day notice period for some services to be offered to people who are in an encampment, hopefully so that we can find someplace better for them to live, either a shelter or some permanent housing. So I think it's important that people understand that during that 21-day period, we're trying to make the situation better for them so they don't just move to another spot. And I think that's very, very important.
And with homelessness, is it an issue in the city of Louisville?
It's an issue everywhere. It's certainly an issue in the city of Louisville, but it's an issue throughout the state, including in rural areas. It's increasing in some places. Natalie can tell you about the counts that we've done in Louisville, and we've had some success in reducing some of the homelessness. But we have new homeless people every day. We have one of the highest eviction rates in the country. The Metropolitan Housing Coalition just did a study that showed we're in the top, I think, 15 for eviction rates in the community. And what that means is, we have new homeless happening every day. So we hear people say, let's just solve the homeless problem, get everyone into housing. That's a continuous process because every day someone new is homeless.
And talk about this issue. Is this something that obviously you're making a lot of steps to kind of help end this issue in Louisville?
Yes, we have been working for years trying to end the issue of homelessness, but the reality is, and this is not just a Louisville issue, but across the country, only 25% of the people who are eligible for assisted housing, which would help them be able to afford living in an apartment along with whatever lower income amount that they make. So, for example, the minimum wage people that we were talking about, that's not enough to live on. Only 25% of the people who would be eligible for that additional assistance actually get it. And so what that means is any family who has a hospital bill, a car breakdown, any kind of issue with a young child who has some disability, then they have to decide this month, am I going to pay my rent or am I going to pay for that additional cost? And that leads to these evictions. And so we just have a cycle of people that every time they move, it's to a worse place than they had before, and they can't afford, to put money aside for that rainy day that they're going to need that assistance. So most of our homeless are homeless for a short period of time, but they're in crisis during that time and trying to figure out, how do I move on from this? And most of them aren't able, even when they move on, to create a safety net for the future.
Well, we appreciate both your times joining us today, and we're going to continue the conversation with you all. Coming up, we'll talk more with Natalie Harrison, also Councilmember Hollander, about this homelessness issue in Louisville, coming up on In Focus Kentucky.